Hi, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class and some holiday inspiration. Today I am featuring Penny Black's slapstick cling stamp called Winter Tree. I just love this tree. There's so many different ways that you can use it. It's such a great size for an A2 size card or even a larger card, and I am doing this on a standard size card, a 4¼ by 5½ in today's video, and there's just a look at that card. Real quick here before we begin, I'm going to pop up a list of all the supplies that I'm using in creating this card, and I will put that back up on screen at the very end of the video, so if you want to look at it in more detail at that time, you can just hit pause and check it out closely. So to begin, I am stamping in my Misty Stamp Positioning Tool onto Wendy Vecchi Perfect cardstock. I wanted a really nice, smooth cardstock so I could capture all of the details of this beautiful stamp. I am inking this using Ranger Archival inks. This is the mini size ink pad, which allows me to get in and get all of the different details on the tree and have just some control in the placement of the inks. I started by inking the entire tree using the fern green, and now I'm going in with the library green color and just adding it in places here and there, mostly closer towards the trunk of the tree and the base of the tree, just to darken that up and add some variation of color. Just gives it more depth and makes it look more lifelike. And I love this sort of scenic stamp layering. You end up with a one layer card at the end, but it has lots of depth and dimension. You can use the same stamp over and over. You just put it in your stamp positioning tool and add your colors until you're totally happy with the look. Here I'm using a distress marker to color in those parts of the tree to get that trunk, and I'm stamping it a couple times just to darken up the color. And you can see with this stamp, you instantly, that just hardly took any time at all, and you have this beautiful tree. You could really just add a sentiment and some die cutting with this and be done right here, because that stamp is just so pretty and it's so easy to work with. So I'm just looking in here and trying to find a few more places where I can add that trunk color, that brown in there. And I am just off camera rooting around for some of my supplies. I'm taking an antique linen distress marker here and just coloring in that trunk, and that sort of blends that darker color out too. And adding a little bit more of that bright green color along the edges of the tree. And that was that fern green archival ink. So now I want to emboss this tree. I'm going to add lots and lots of layers of stamping and inking behind this, and I don't want to lose any of the color that we have gotten with our stamping so far. So I rubbed an anti-static bag across my stamping on the right hand side, and I'm going to ink up my stamp with the Versamark ink. So I have not moved the stamp or my paper in the stamp positioning tool. I am going to stamp that just a couple of times, so I'm sure to capture all of the detail. Then I'm going to sprinkle that with clear embossing powder, and I'll heat that to set that. And what that does is it just seals in all of the stamping that we've done so far. So when we add more colors and more stamping to the background, this tree will stay in the foreground and retain all of the color that we have achieved with our stamping. So I'll go ahead and heat that to set. And now there's one more thing I want to do to sort of seal in on this tree. So this beautiful stamp has built in some of those snowy branches on the tree, and those are not stamped, they're just built in. So I want to seal in that look of that snow on there. So now I'm using a Versa marker. This has the same kind of ink as that Versamark pad does, but you apply it with a marker. So I'm just coloring that into those areas of snow, and also on that trunk where I colored it in and I didn't stamp it actually. And I'm sprinkling that with the clear embossing powder, and I will heat that to set. So now everything on that tree, including those sort of snowy branches, will all be sealed in before we do our background inking and stamping. Again, just heating that to set. It also gives just a really fun finish to the card too. Now I've torn the sticky edge of a Post-it note, and I'm just laying that along the bottom of the card and masking off sort of a snowy hill or a snowbank in the background. And now I'm going to apply my inks to the background, and I'm using Wendy Vecchi Make Art Blendable Dye Ink. So I want to be sure to use a dye ink that is not permanent on this background so that all those embossed areas on that tree can resist the ink. And you can see that happening right now as I apply those inks. The colors of the tree are staying exactly the same because those background inks just are completely resisted by the slick embossing that we've done. So the first color I'm starting with here is Garden Patina. I'm applying this using an ink blending tool and a foam pad. And I'm sort of starting at the bottom and working my way up so that it's darker at the bottom and lighter near that upper right hand corner. I'm going to add some other shades of blue to this, including Bluebird and Cornflower Blue. And I always like a little touch of turquoise on my holiday cards. I just love how holiday colors and even outdoor scenes look with a touch of a turquoise look. So here is some of that Cornflower Blue, which is sort of a smokier color. And I love all of the colors in these Make Art Blendable Dye Inks. They're really a great set. They work really well together, as you can see here on this background. Now I wanted just a little bit more green. So this is the color of Prickly Pear, and I'm just very lightly applying this all over that background. And these are transparent inks, so as you layer the different colors, you can kind of blend them together. So when I put that Prickly Pear on, it sort of turned it more of a turquoise blue. Now I'm going to use this other little tree from our Seasons Marvel Transparent set by Penny Black. This set works beautifully with that larger cling stamp that we did to begin with. So I'm going to ink this tree now with these same Make Art Blendable Dye inks. I'm starting with that Garden Patina. I'm going to stamp it a few times, always starting light, and then I will start adding more colors in. Now that first tree that we stamped that's embossed, it's going to resist these inks as we're stamping. So all of these trees that we're stamping in the background are going to recede behind that first tree that we stamped. I'm adding the same colors that we applied to the background to the tree. More of the green up near the top and more of the darker blue down near the bottom. And these scenes are so fun to create. If you look back at that Seasons Marvel transparent set, it's got some berries in there. It even has some mountains and some birds. You could absolutely add them with this bigger, larger tree that we stamped first. Just with those two stamps, with the winter tree and the Seasons Marvel, you can create so many different looking scenes. Now I'm adding another tree right up here in the left-hand corner. Typically when I design things, I like things in odd numbers, so this way I've got 3 there, and I sort of fill in this left-hand side of the card. Now I'm going to add just a touch of Antique Linen Distress ink around the edges and very lightly over the background. This just adds to sort of the vintage feeling of the card. And I love this part. I'm going to peel up the Post-it notes from the bottom and then just add a little touch of antique linen down here onto the snow area just to give it a bit of a shadow and more of a finished effect. Now up here on these upper branches of this tree, I wanted to continue sort of that look of snow that is down lower in the tree. So I'm using a white gel pen and I'm just coloring a few lines of snow or frost right along these upper branches. No need to get any of it perfect, just a touch of it here and there. I'll just finish that up. I love the look of that. A little bit here and there down at the bottom. Anywhere you think that you'd like a sort of a frosty or snowy look. Now my sentiment comes from our transparent set, Peaceful Season. This is another one of our really beautiful sentiment sets, and I love the mixture of fonts and the sayings that are included on this one. I'm stamping this with Acorn Archival ink. It's just a really nice dark brown, and I'm stamping it a few times just to darken up the color. And then I'm going to use that same white gel pen to add a few sort of snowflakes in the background, mainly around the outer edges of the card, just giving the hint of falling snow. And that completes the card. I just mounted it to a standard size note card and it is ready to go in the mail. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, as well as on our website and blog. And I'll link to all of those for you down in the YouTube description box below. And here's a look at the supply list for creating this card. Thanks for watching.